boyfriend can't keep up with my high sex drive. I've seen some posts on here that offer really good advice, so I wanted to take a chance and try to explain my situation in the hopes of gaining some insight. Like the title says, I'm a 19-year-old woman, and my sex drive is noticeably higher than that of my boyfriend, who is 21. We've been together for over a year now, and in the beginning it seemed like he could match my energy pretty well. We were having a lot of intimate moments, and it felt like we were both really in sync in that area of our relationship. However, as time has gone on, I've noticed a significant change in how often he wants to engage in anything sexual. It's not that we've stopped entirely, but his desire for bedroom time, as I'll call it, has definitely decreased compared to how things were in the beginning. At first, I thought it might just be a phase or something temporary, maybe he was stressed out, tired, or just not feeling it as much for a short period of time. But this has continued for several months now, and I'm beginning to wonder if there's something deeper going on. For context, I've tried to bring this up with him in a casual and non-pressuring way because I know that pressuring someone about sex can be counterproductive and even harmful. When we've talked about it, he's reassured me that it's not about me or anything I'm doing wrong. He says he's just not in the mood as often as I am and that it's not a reflection of how he feels about me or our relationship. While I believe him, it's still difficult for me not to feel a little rejected or like something might be missing. I also understand that everyone has different levels of libido, and it's totally normal for couples to have mismatched sex drives to some degree. I'm just finding it a little challenging to navigate this difference because I don't want him to feel pressured, but I also don't want to feel like my own needs are being ignored or dismissed. I'm trying to find a balance that works for both of us, but I'm honestly not sure what the best approach is. I eventually decided to confront my boyfriend about the changes in his sex drive because it was starting to weigh on me, and I wanted to understand what might be causing it. When I brought it up, he explained that his decreased interest in sex was largely due to stress from work. I could understand where he was coming from. Life can definitely get overwhelming and stress can have a significant impact on one's libido. Since I didn't want to make him feel pressured or guilty, I made it clear that I accepted his explanation and respected his boundaries. However, I also needed to address my own needs, so I told him that I would satisfy myself alone when I felt the need. That's when things took an unexpected turn. He responded by saying that if I was going to masturbate or even just play with myself, I needed to let him know beforehand, either by texting him or telling him directly. I found this request puzzling and honestly a little controlling. It didn't make sense to me why he felt the need to monitor or be informed about something so personal, especially when it was meant to address a need he wasn't able to fulfill at the moment. We ended up having an argument about it because I genuinely didn't understand his reasoning. To me, masturbation is a private and autonomous activity, and his insistence on being informed felt intrusive and unnecessary. Despite my reservations, I eventually gave in and agreed to his request, mostly because I didn't want to create more tension between us. I figured that if it helped him feel more comfortable, it wasn't worth making a huge issue out of it. Things seemed to settle down after that, and I started exploring ways to make my private time more enjoyable. A few months ago, he had actually bought me some toys, so I decided to start using them during my solo sessions. I thought this was a reasonable way to enhance the experience and make it more satisfying for myself, especially since he had been the one to introduce the idea of using toys in the first place. However, when he found out that I had used the toys, he became visibly upset and angry. This reaction completely caught me off guard. I couldn't understand why he was mad, especially since he had given me the toys to begin with. It felt contradictory and confusing. On one hand, he seemed to want to support me in exploring my sexuality in a way that didn't put pressure on him, but on the other hand he was upset when I actually did so. This has left me feeling conflicted and unsure about how to navigate the situation. I don't understand why he seems to have such a strong need to control how I manage my own sexual needs, especially when I've tried to approach this in a way that respects his boundaries and alleviates his stress. I'd really appreciate any advice or insights on how to handle this dynamic, as it's starting to create tension and confusion in our relationship. I love him and want to work through this together, but I also feel like my autonomy and needs deserve to be respected. When I asked him about why he was upset over my use of the toys, he eventually admitted that it made him feel useless. He said he feels like he's failing as a partner because he can't satisfy me the way I need, and seeing me rely on toys for pleasure only deepens that sense of inadequacy. He explained that knowing I was using them made him feel replaced or overshadowed, even though I tried to reassure him that this wasn't the case at all. I told him that the toys were simply a way for me to explore my body and address my own needs when he wasn't able to, and it didn't diminish my feelings for him or my desire to be intimate with him in any way. I wanted to approach the situation delicately because I could see that this was hitting a vulnerable spot for him. I made it clear that I wasn't using the toys as a substitute for him or as a sign that he wasn't enough for me. I explained that they were more of an addition to my personal time, something to help me feel fulfilled when his stress and lowered sex drive made him less available. I thought this might help him see things differently and ease his discomfort, but it hasn't seemed to work. Despite expressing these feelings of inadequacy and saying he'd feel happier if I didn't use the toys, he's still refusing to have sex with me. This contradiction has been incredibly difficult for me to process. On one hand, I want to honor his feelings and help him feel more secure and confident in our relationship. On the other hand, I feel like I'm being put in an impossible position where my needs are being sidelined without any clear path forward. I've tried to open up a dialogue about how we can address this together, but it feels like every conversation leads back to him shutting down or doubling down on his stance. He keeps reiterating that his stress from work is a major factor, which I understand, but I'm struggling to see how we can find a solution when he's not willing to compromise or even try to meet me halfway. This situation is leaving me feeling increasingly frustrated, confused, and even a little neglected. I love my boyfriend and I want to work through this, but I also feel like my emotional and physical needs aren't being acknowledged or valued. I'm trying to be patient and understanding, but it's becoming harder to ignore the impact this is having on my own well-being and the balance of our relationship. I've reached a point where I genuinely don't understand what my boyfriend is thinking. His behavior has been so confusing and contradictory, and I'm struggling to make sense of it. On one hand, he has expressed feeling inadequate and said that knowing I use toys makes him feel worse about himself, but on the other hand, he's still refusing to have sex with me. He doesn't seem willing to explore any middle ground or alternatives that could address both of our needs, and I'm left feeling stuck and unsure of what to do. Out of sheer frustration and a need to take care of myself, I've started self-pleasuring without telling him anything about it. I know that sounds like a small thing, but for me it feels like a big deal. Since he had previously insisted on knowing whenever I was going to masturbate, I feel like I'm breaking some unspoken rule by doing it in secret now. And honestly, it's making me feel terrible. I can't help but feel guilty, like I'm being deceitful or doing something wrong by not telling him. I never thought something so personal and harmless could leave me feeling this conflicted, but here I am. I keep wondering if it's normal to feel this way. Is it wrong for me to prioritize my own needs in this situation, especially when he has created an environment where it feels impossible to be honest about it? I don't want to hurt him or make things worse between us, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to suppress my own needs entirely just to avoid upsetting him. Talking to him about this also feels like a dead end. Every time I try to bring up the topic, whether it's about our sex life, using toys, or my own self-pleasure, he gets irritated and shuts down the conversation. It's incredibly frustrating because I want to work through this together, but it feels like he's unwilling to even engage in the discussion. I've tried to approach the topic gently and with understanding, but no matter how I frame it, the result is always the same: defensiveness, irritation, and no progress. I'm feeling more and more isolated in this aspect of our relationship. I don't want to create unnecessary tension, but I also don't think I can continue to feel guilty about something as basic as self-pleasure. I'm not sure how to navigate this situation anymore. Should I stop altogether and try to wait for him to come around, even if that means neglecting my own needs? Or should I keep doing what I'm doing and try to work through the guilt on my own? If anyone has advice on how to approach this or insight into why he might be acting this way, I'd really appreciate it. I care deeply about him and want our relationship to work, but I'm starting to feel like I'm losing myself in the process of trying to accommodate his feelings. How do I find a way to balance his emotional needs with my own without sacrificing either one? And is it even possible to reach that balance when he's unwilling to have an open conversation about it? Too long didn't read part is, so to sum it up, my BF doesn't want to have as much sex anymore as before, but doesn't want me to masturbate without him knowing or to masturbate with toys because he then apparently feels useless. Let's read some relevant comments and she replies to that comments. First comment is, banned from toys is crazy. Demanding also to know when you're masturbating is deeply fucking weird. I don't really know what to make of that, in fact. Why does he want to know if he's not going to bang you upon being informed that you're about to get yourself off? Is he hoping you will be too ashamed to mention it and that's the strategy to just get you to sit there and boil in your own sexual frustration? Does bro have some sort of secret chastity kink, or is he just a controlling and insecure fucker? I do think it's normal to feel bad about doing things behind your partner's back that they have requested not to be done, but I also think it's abnormal that he doesn't feel bad about requesting something like this. I do not think I could personally power through my guilt at the deception, and I absolutely could not power through just saying goodbye to my borderline medicinal climax routine. Caught between those two things, I would end up popping loose of the relationship like a heavily greased tennis ball being crushed by two slabs of steel. I'm going to suggest some things. Please forgive me if you've already tried them or if you feel they're so obvious that I shouldn't have even bothered. 1. Do you try initiating by asking? Not in the sense of having a conversation requesting that this change, but just in the moment saying, "Love, please bone me now," only in a fashion that's probably less vulgar? Or more vulgar, whichever. I don't know what your style is or what he prefers. 2. Do you try initiating in ways beyond asking, like reaching over in bed to rub the junk or whatever? 3. Have you tried something like taking your top off around him and seeing if it stirs something in him enough to act? If I see my partner's breasts, I am consistently stirred. Mind you, I am hypersexual to a degree that is frankly deranged, but I thought I would still ask about this one. 4. Is it possible your boyfriend is built like a freak as I am, and has difficulty going through with sex if it doesn't integrate an unusual preference? Now that the electric feeling of a new relationship has begun to wear off a little, is he having trouble pushing through without kink activity? Have you two ever had the kink conversation? She replied to first comment, "Thank you so much for your reply. I didn't know what to think of it either, but since it's my first relationship too, I guessed in every relationship is something like that. I do walk around topless or in skimpy clothes at home, but he doesn't react at all to that. I thought maybe he got used to seeing my body? After all, it's been a year. I try to initiate a lot since he doesn't do it as often anymore, but then he says something like, 'Not now,' or 'I don't feel like it.' It makes me so sad, and I often feel like the most unattractive girl in the world because of that." Edit. I didn't see the fourth point. We tried a lot of things, and what I forgot to mention was that he's into the dominant mommy type of play while I tend to like being dominated more. I told him if he doesn't feel compatible in the bedroom that we should maybe think about this relationship. But he says he doesn't want to break up because he wants to marry me, but it gets all so weird. He's a good guy and treats me so good apart from our sex life. Second comment is, how much are we talking about? Also, I didn't know about everyone else, but when I was your age, bedroom time with someone I was dating was non-existent considering I was still a teen living at home. She replied to second comment, "I've already got my own student apartment, so we see each other pretty often. There's no one except my small cat in my home, so that shouldn't be a problem, I think." Third comment is, how you two meet? As in, what's your origin story? She replied to third comment, "I'm a cosplayer and we met at a convention. We shared a lot of interests, and after a lot of chatting, meeting up and dates, we just got together." Thank you for listening the story to the end. If you enjoy our videos, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have a good day, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it and hit the notification bell icon to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.